That's Unit 005, Ward 11 in Issaquah West local government area. She said from the report we're getting, the BVAS machine has had to be replaced twice because they were not working. Voting started 20 minutes ago now, because she said 5 minutes ago when we started speaking with her, so about 20 minutes ago now. Coincidentally, that's also the polling unit of the reinstated Deputy Governor of Edo State, Philip Shaibu, who also spoke about the process and how conscious the people are and ready to vote. All right, let's bring in our guest on Zoom, Gabriel Wambo, who, will be also, he's also an election observer. He's observed a lot of elections in Nigeria. Will also be telling us, his thoughts on this process. Good to have you join us.
Good to have you too. Thank you so much, and good day.
So let me start with, we'll come back to the conversation Ibrahim was having with you, Mr. Victor Ohai, but talk to us about your observation with this election and some of the things that have just been noted. Unit 005, Ward 11 in Edo State, and that's Issaquah West local government, where the BVAS machine has had to be replaced twice. Tie all of this into the preparedness of INEC for this election.
Thank you so much. You see, the Independent National Electoral Commission has made a lot of arrangements. And part of the arrangement is a contingency plan, to ensure that there is enough backup of PVCs, for every ward. And there are technicians, there are engineers on ground, to replace them within the shortest possible time. So these contingencies have been made, and I believe that with enough manpower that is also available, we do not expect to see much malfunctions of the BVAS. So far, over 90% of the areas that are supposed to, elections are supposed to be holding is ongoing right now. So I think it's a very good development. The INEC is prepared, and the INEC has demonstrated being responsive and responsible to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerian citizens so far.
But if you look at Mr. Wambo, if you look at what you said, look at it from 8 a.m. to up until now, that's more than 4 hours ago. And then you're talking about INEC's preparedness vis-a-vis the technicians that are there to ensure that the BVAS functions very well. This BVAS is definitely going to be used, is being used for accreditation and then transmitting results. At the end of the day, how do you think this might impact the outcome of the elections in the case where they are not able to transmit, especially from the rural areas in Edo State?
No, nobody said they are not able to be transmitted or results will not be transmitted. If what is happening is just in Issaquah, a fraction in Jatu, just a fraction of, just less than a fraction of the entire percentage of elections being conducted in the 18 local government areas of Edo State. That is not enough to say that elections are not moving smoothly. It's just a tiny part of the election processes, the election venue that is not being working as expected. However, we believe that everything is all right now, and there is enough manpower. And so far, INEC has not proved not to be responsive. INEC has immediately gone back and returned with new BVAS machines, and the elections are on. So far, everything is stable now.
Mr. Wambu, if I may come in here, because you used the word immediately, I'm staying on the point that Ibrahim raised, which you also said that is INEC has immediately, because it's not immediately, it's been since 8 a.m., they've had to do that twice. If it was just once, one would say, okay, maybe, it was an error. But this is twice now that the BVAS has had to be changed. And it's been since 8 a.m. And if you do that calculation, it means that it took INEC about 4 hours or more to replace, or 2 hours or more to replace one BVAS. And then another 2 hours or more to replace another BVAS. How tight will you then say that contingency plan is that INEC made?
Well, you just heard this in Jatu area of Edo State. and it is not synonymous everywhere. My take on it is that although it is a technology, technologies might not be 100%, effective, but so far it is not so bad. We do not want to hit up unnecessary situations that.
All right, looks like connection there with Nwambu is we've lost that connection. But let's bring the conversation to you to react to what is going on in Unit 005, Ward 11, where Philip Shaibu is also voting. Twice the beavers has had to be replaced. This is the third time. Hopefully people can vote now. But how do you read that situation?
Well, it can create a bit of tension, as the newly reinstated Deputy Governor stated himself that he thought there was foul play, but his confidence has been restored. Now, I expect INEC to be responsive, and that's what gives confidence to the process. So it failed once, it failed the second time, but this time around they got it. So I think, because that's the hope of everyone right now, that the beavers would be able to give a fair representation of what has happened, and it will enable us know who and who were there, who and who voted. So a case of voting or ballot snatching, would not come up. So I expect them to be as responsive as that. And I remember in an earlier broadcast, someone talked about INEC technicians being around, so which means that they have people who are on the standby ready to make repairs or fix things. So to that extent, I think it's a good one. I didn't expect it to be 100%. In fact, I'm surprised that this is the only one. But again, we're talking to a high-profile person, so we know because there are cameras there. There may be so many others that we don't know about, but we'll have to wait and see, if that's what's happening. But the fact that they can be responsive and they will deal with the issue is very positive.
There is one thing for the machines to be, to malfunction. It's another thing for the people who are handling these machines to be able to utilize them very well. How do you think the Independent National Electoral Commission has tried to, train, especially the ad hoc, staff members that are co-opted into this election?
I think they have adequate training. I don't think anybody has ever accused any of their staff of not knowing what to do. Certainly not with the beavers or the processors. So they do adequate training. So what is usually lacking sometimes is public awareness. Sensitizing the public about the due processes and what they must do, what they should do after voting. They try. Some NGOs also help and support in that area. So, but once you know what your civic responsibilities are, and INEC does what it has to do, I think we're home and dry. So, I'm pleased that so far, there's been okay. Because if you begin to see malfunctioning beavers along the line, that already puts a question of credibility or integrity in the process. People will begin to insinuate all sorts of things. So, INEC's quick response in this case has been positive, and I hope it's the same across borders. So
there's an improvement in that regard. But let's understand that we have Mr. Nwambu back in the conversation. I want us to touch on some of the things that, I don't know if you were listening to Philip Shaibu when he was speaking with our correspondent in Edo State. He said some things. In fact, she had to caution him while he was speaking. And we've also heard some of the candidates and key figures in this election speak. What do you make of the rhetoric so far and the impact it could have on the process?
What rhetorics are you talking about, please?
We've had some of the key figures speaking. Some have complained about what's going on in their ward. Some have said, in the polling unit, some have given some level of credit to INEC and security agencies. When Philip Shaibu started talking, our correspondent had to also caution, some of what he was going to say, and said he cannot say that, focus on the issues. And I wanted to, tie all of this together and the impact it could have on the process when politicians or key figures in this election make statements like that.
Yeah, honestly, it is unfortunate that we still have very key figures in our polity. in our political space, making utterances that is unbecoming of public office holders. We have, before the election, part of our constituency is actually to observe the pre-election, election, and post-election processes. The pre-election, we saw, persons that are holding high public office holders talking about burning down the country, burning down the state, that it's a do or die affair, elections, and all that. It's across board. These are persons that could be classified. They are trying to aid or make statements that could lead to breakdown of law and order. And for us in the civil society, we also classify such persons as enemies of democracy, as it were. So we expect them to mind their diction, their choice of words, because they could either decide to cause breakdown of law and order, or they can also decide to ensure that they abide with the extant laws and provision of the Electoral Act, as it were. So by this medium, I want to also caution high-profile persons that are involved in this election to be mindful of their words, mindful of the choice of words they make, because this could affect, impair, or on this electoral process.
Would have even said a die is cast already, because people are out there, ensuring that they register their whatever it is that they have at the back of their minds. But do you think, if you want to compare, or if you want to link the rhetorics before today together with what is going on, what you've seen on the ground, because you are there on the ground observing things, do you feel that the voters are actually acting based on what they heard, especially from the politicians, or they are acting based on the fact that they are also well-informed voters?
Mr. Wambo, the question was for you.
Mr. Wambo, did you get a question?
Please come again. Your voice is so faint now.
Okay, so let me confirm if you can hear me now. Mr. Wambo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. So I was asking you, to compare or to see or to assess how the rhetorics of the politicians pre-elections, because the die is cast already, people are out there exercising their franchise. Do you feel that what they had said, especially with the utterance of the like of if they do, then people will die, so to speak? Do you feel that people are actually voting, or they're exercising their franchise based on what the rhetorics of the politicians, or they are doing, they're exercising their franchise based on the fact that they are educated voters, they know better?
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, what is actually happening in Edo State is that in spite of the hype, there has been a very serious hype of that the election, many people are going to, might not come out of it. The very negative statements, persons, a lot of people have actually made projections based on the utterances of very key politicians, that the elections is going to be a hot one. But in spite of these utterances, in spite of the heavy downpour in most places in Edo State, the turnout of voters is very, very encouraging and very huge. We believe that the increase in terms of new registrants and the collection of PVCs that have run up to over 85% of collection of PVCs. And this is the highest number of collection of PVCs we've seen in the recent time across the country. And this demonstrates that there is a zeal by the electorate to ensure that they vote for a credible candidate in Edo State. So the fact that some key politicians have made utterances that are unbecoming has not deterred the electorate. There is a determination. The Nigerian spirit in them has been resonated. Nigerians want to ensure that things are done right. Things are done the way it ought to be. And that is what has actually propelled the massive turnout of electorates in today's election. So it's not yet Uhuru. We are still monitoring events as our observers sent across the 192 wards of Edo State, bring in reports.
Conversation in just a moment, but let's bring you more updates from our coverage of the Edo election. About 200 police officers have been detailed as part of a rapid response and are already available to be deployed to wherever they